But animals to me has been the greatest source of my joy. I'm Laureen Velasco. I'm an assistant professor at Salle University. I've been teaching for more than 3 decades already. I am one of the founding and core members of DLSU-PUSA, which is the animal advocacy group in Salle University main campus. Well, I started my animal advocacy in the Philippines in 2014 when I started rescuing cats. I fell in love with cats in 2012, and then I was in Sophia University, Tokyo for a year in 2013. And when I had a lot of time, that's when I discovered the horrendous things that animals go through in factory farming, in ocean parks, in zoos, Uh, Grabe. And that's what moved my soul to promise that when I return to Manila, I would launch my own. But of course, I also realized I cannot keep rescuing. So sinabay ko yan sa kapon. I launched my quarterly kapon. I met a vet and then I said I desired to do that. And then he said, I will form my team. And I shouldered all the expenses. We handled my entire family in my house, handled the post-surgery care, the trapping, so. And then my chairperson in Lasal came, and that's when she got the idea, why don't we do the same thing to the campus cats? Yeah, I stopped in 2013 when I saw the cruelty in factory farming. Of course, the dairy industry, the beef, the pork, what did I miss when I stopped eating meat? Of course, you're craving for adobo. When you're a Filipino, your adobo, your kare-kare. But of course, I also realized I could actually give up really my 30-minute gastronomic delight if it means I will not contribute to the suffering. Initially, we just wanted to capon and feed, and then the challenges arose as years went by. We did not imagine DLSU-PUSA would become so big and going viral, 11 TV appearances, the magazines, the broadsheets, I think we are the most successful animal advocacy in a school, and people have been asking us how we were able to convince the administration to do that. Serendipitously, Pope Francis came up with the Laudato Si, and so campus sustainability. So everything just fell into place, and we are very lucky that we have very open-minded and broad-minded directors and top administrators who were aligned with who understood the advocacy, but with that we were not prepared for something so challenging. And so, we took it one day at a time, one trimester at a time, 1 year at a time, and we're now doing this for 10 years. We're doing this for 10 years already, and hopefully forever. I'm focused on maintaining the commitment and the dedication on a daily basis. We've had wonderful events like the graduation of Archer, a heartbreaking day when we turned him over, had to have him adopted because he had to have subcutaneous hydration every day. At the time, we did not know how to do that. But now we know. Now we know. Painful deaths, of some of our cats. Ganon, So the joy and the pain, you embrace both, the joy and the pain. I would say not so much the policymakers first, but people. Because even if you do not legalize or come up with policies, when consumers decide not to buy, not to consume, that's a very powerful decision already. Because they're the ones really funding the industries. So keep sharing the photos, the videos, and then you can only do so much. Because I have heard also friends who would say, oh, what a pity, it's so heartbreaking. Some of them would not watch the video because it's heartbreaking, but they would not watch because they don't like to see the sources of their food. I saw so many of them, and I made the decision immediately to stop eating meat. Immediately. Was there any struggle? No. Did I miss meat? Some of them, yes. My lamb chop with mint jelly, my turkey with cranberry sauce. And yan, okay, so the adobo. But yun na nga, I can give up the gastronomic delight. And only in my mind now that I'm missing, but I think I've lost also the taste for it, because I realized that when you stop eating meat, your sense of taste and your sense of smell would actually change. I enter a grocery, I can smell the meat section from a mile. Talagang, nag-iiba, nag-iiba. And some people thought parang, ang arte naman, parang bakit nababantutan ka na? Kasi nga nag-iiba yung sense of smell. I talked to a friend and then she realized, yeah, the same thing's happening to me. And then our friends just saying, parang nag-arte-arte lang ako. But really, mag-iiba yung sense of taste mo at sense of smell. I think first and foremost, the sense of smell. So, hindi mo na siya gusto. You're just imagining na masarap, So, widening the circle of compassion and expanding precisely the empathy would cover all living beings. Just last night, I had an experience. I was, 3 students came while I was feeding the cats, and then one of them ran towards something and stepped on something really violently. And that's when I realized, pinatay yung ipis. Sabi ko, why? You didn't have to do that. I said, you didn't have to do that. And I had a very revealing experience. When I was about to kill a cockroach, I was holding already a slipper or a broom, I think. And I was about to hit it, and then the Zen in me, kind of paused and became mindful of what was happening. And I saw that the insect was equally, if not more, terrified of me. Okay, so hindi niya malaman kung saan siya tatakbo, and the instinct of self-preservation that is, of course, strong in all sentient beings. And that's when I decided to put down and I said, you die another day and not by my hand. So pagka meron dadapo na langgam dyan, I try to pick it up. Kung nasa arm ko, I try to pick it up and remove it. Ikaw talaga trespassing ka. Okay? Okay? Or minsan may tinataklak ako. Yung mga, when we feed the cats, we have plates and then sometimes, we leave them behind and then pag we trace, that's when we pick them up again. Minsan may lalanggam. So what I do is tinataktak ko. Malapit sa garden, malapit sa drainage or something. And then I remember my friend, parang hindi ko sila pinapatay. Pinapakawalan ko sila. Okay? So, yun. But of course, I don't want rats in the kitchen and the plates and all that. But I remember having this conversation with the store owner. And then he said something like, I want them wiped out of the planet. I want them out of the face of the earth. And I said, I will not go as far as to say that. Because I'm sure they have a contribution to the ecological balance. It's just that sometimes the arrogance of man and the incompleteness of science will not give you all the data and the realization. So sabi ko, I'm sure they have a contribution to the ecological balance, So I will not go as far as to say na sana mawala silang lahat, But of course, I don't want them in my kitchen and all that. Sa dorm namin, bawal ang pusa initially. But there is a cat na pinakapon ko from the street, then all of a sudden entered the dorm and would chase after the little rats. And so the owner and the housekeeper decided to keep the cat. So, bawal ang pusa sa dorm. Pero ngayon, nakikita mo yung function niya, di ba, yung usefulness. So, pinayagan na. And now we have 3 cats in the dorm. Because, when you say bawal policies, man-made yan eh. You can always change your mind when you see things from a bigger perspective. Well, I actually don't know the definite answer to that because there are children who are cruel already. As young as they are, would drown kittens and puppies and hit them, and kick them, throw them on the highway and find it fun. And these are children. Okay, but I have seen also videos of children who took care of animals and then the parents were about to sold the animals for slaughter. And they would fight with all their might, and you could see how heartbroken they are. So I think in the case, just like in the case of adults, Yun na nga eh. So the question is, how do you teach compassion? Some people see the videos that I saw and will not be moved the same way. Or yung iba, maaawa but will not do anything. Kasi masarap eh, so I cannot give it up. Okay, so it involves learning, educating the mind so you understand why this is not healthy, what's happening to them, the hormone injection, the multi-drug resistant antibiotics, precisely because your cattle are injected with that, and the kind of teeth we have as opposed to predators, that's the intellectual approach, the scientific approach. But how do you teach compassion? I think that comes from the heart. That comes from the heart. And there are so many evil people. I have not realized how many unkind people there were until I got into animal advocacy. Hindi sila tutulong sa hayop, tapos they will hinder pa people who'd like to help the animals. Yung hindi na sila tutulong, tapos, di ba, yung talagang wag ka rin tutulong, babawalan ka namin, or we will find a way to hinder the help that the animals will get. What kind of evil is that? And that comes from people's hearts. I cannot say innate na nando na eh. Okay? It just happened. I don't have an explanation as to the source. It just happened. So I was moved and on a social level, and I made a decision. And love is not unmoved. Iba ang sympathy at sentimentality sa compassion. Because ang compassion ay may action. Ang sentimentality ay naramdaman mo lang yung emosyon. Tapos noon wala na. Because people feel disconnected. Yung mga sanctuaries for cows, sanctuaries for pigs, they take in the animals because they feel the connection. Okay, so they feel the connection. So they rescue. So you have to feel the connection. SPCA in the UK started with that. It's not people in general who started fighting for the animals. It's the pet owners. Because they realized the connection to an animal. Of course, speciesist ka kapag yan lang ang gusto mo. Okay? But the compassion precisely is widening and widening, and you'd like to include more. After I came from Tokyo, before I went to Sophia University, I was actually scuba diving every weekend. And I would bring my spear, we'd get some fish there, stonefish, and kogita, gagatain mo and all that. After my trip from Tokyo, nagulat yung dive master ko because when we resumed our scuba diving, he said, Ma'am, dala tayo ng spear. Sabi, no, hindi tayo magdadala ng spear. We will just swim and dive, and we will not touch any of the animals. But even before my exposure to the cruelty, may mga bits and pieces of experiences na. Like when I went diving, and then my dive master saw a lapu-lapu there, and then he chased after it, and of course succeeded in bringing it on the surface. An hour later, that lapu-lapu was now swimming in sweet and sour sauce. And it was offered to me and my dad, and I couldn't look at it. Because it's like parang I was an intruder just an hour ago. It was there peacefully resting in its natural habitat, and then now it's there resting in sweet and sour sauce. So, when you feel connected, pag wala kang connection, wala talaga. So, yun. No, in my case, the cause really was the exposure to the animal cruelty. Okay? But before the exposure, that made me come up with a major decision. Pero yung mga little things like that, like I saw a puffer fish, my scuba diver friend caught, and then narinig ko siya, umiyak siya. Narinig ko yung sound ng puffer fish. Talagang, parang ganyan, talagang. So in other words, siguro tuned into na ako, but I did not have the really big information. So the fact na and I grew up with chickens and rabbits and all that, so we've had animals at home. But it doesn't follow. In other words, you don't come up with a formula. You teach, you try your best, show the videos, whatever, but the responses will be varied. Okay, just like when I teach my students, I tell them, one lecture, but I'm talking to 40 different consciousness, 40 different personalities, and I get across in 40 different ways. So there's something there that does not depend on us anymore. Okay, so the fusion of horizons, and love is a miracle. So if you're going to be moved, then you're going to be moved, and many people are not. But there could be a Buddhist explanation to that, precisely because you're eating cruelty. So it becomes part of your consciousness. In a Buddhist monastery, the cook has to have a very high level of spirituality because he's the one who prepares the meals of the entire congregation. So natatransfer yung energy. And yung matter is just objectified energy. So kapag kalos na yung tao, kasi yun na nga, di ba? So what makes us, I do not think that we are by nature kalos. But I also do not think we are by nature compassionate. I'd say so many things, so many factors will play a role. Okay? Some people will say upbringing, some people will say family, school, etc. So I would say it's a mixture of so many things, plus your openness. Your openness. I was about to kill the insect and I saw it was so terrified. Nakita ko yung body language niya. The cockroach was so terrified. And usually we kill them because we are also afraid. Iba talagang lumilipad, di ba? Yan talaga nakakatakot. Okay? And so it was an invitation, to me, it was an invitation to transcend the fear and to make the decision on the basis of something else. And then that's when I said, I'll put it down. Okay, I'll put it down. And so when you see the eyes of the factory farmed animals, di ba? And talagang, oh my God, and the suffering they go through. Madaling i-give up yung pagkain, di ba? If it means they will not go through that. And that's why veganism is a growing consciousness. We have fast food chains slowly incorporating that kind of food because there is a demand. Ganun yun eh. Even if the policies are not going to change, if there are no consumers, there are no buyers, it will have to shut down. In 2013, I heard that some milk farms or dairy farms have started shutting down. Okay, so ganun. Hopefully, sige pa, lalaki. Like 4 years old lang kayo dito sa Pilipinas. So, I didn't find it difficult naman. I didn't find it difficult. When I realized and I was moved, I made the decision right away. There was no struggle. Not know what you're missing. People are looking for happiness, and there are many sources. But animals to me has been the greatest source of my joy. On a soulful level, you don't know what you're missing. You try it out. And we'll see. I have volunteers in DLSU-PUSA who are actually afraid of cats. Pero siguro for some reasons, nakikitan sila or there's a trend, it's a popular org. So they try it out. And then I am not controlling how it's going to affect them. But the fact that the door is being opened, so let's see. I did not sign up for what I'm doing now for DLSU-PUSA. Walang day off, pagod ako. Pero sabi ko nga sa isang parent volunteer, wala na to sa mood eh. Hindi yung nasa mood ako, wala ako sa mood. Hindi. Yung pagod ka, yeah, pagod. Tinatamad ka. Kahit tinatamad. You move. Because they depend on you. And that is one of the, not negative, but that is one of the facts and the differences between having children and human children and animals. Yung human children pwedeng maging independent, but the animals never will be. So, I'll do this for 1,000,000 lifetimes.